Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Coffee Time Bible Study. So glad that you're here. Brother Stedman will be joining us, but a little bit later. Welcome, Kaylee. Glad you're here. You having a good morning so far?
So far, a little chilly, a little rainy here in Michigan, but it's all right. It's not snow and it's not a flood, so we're all right.
They're getting some crazy hail the other day in Kansas, where it was big hail coming down, and then a lot of rain in Tennessee too. So, yeah, we are here on Moses. We're still in Moses. Last week was great study on the plagues of Egypt and how they help us to understand the plagues that are in Revelation. So we can look at them with a different set of eyes. And that helps us when we're trying to study what each of the plagues represent and what they mean. It helps us to get a clear understanding of things in Revelation that we kind of don't really understand. But once we start studying these plagues, they become a little bit clearer. We walked through the plague of blood, which turned the Nile into blood, and how it related to the Hebrew boys when that order was given by Pharaoh to get rid of all the Hebrew boys and throw them into the Nile. And the other plagues we discussed was the plagues of frogs and the unclean spirits, and that represented sin in the lives of the Egyptians. And we talked about how God was really letting the Egyptians and the Israelites know that he is the one true God. He was debunking, we'll call it debunking, these other false gods that they were worshiping. The God of the Nile, the God of fertility, the God of the land, the God of this, the God of that. God was just, they could do those first two, they could reenact the first two plagues, but we're going to find out in these other plagues, they weren't the mystical, magical people of the day could not reproduce these other plagues. So they stopped even trying. But the first two, the blood and the frogs, they could produce those. But God was debunking those false gods in showing that he was the one true God. That was the intention, is to wipe out these false thoughts and worships and know that they are not the one true God. They are the God of this, the God of that, and they were worshiping these and putting them as idols in front of God. So we talked about all of that and how these magicians of the time would try to duplicate these plagues. And we're going to see that God is the one true God as we walk through these plagues. And I hope that it helps us to recognize in Revelation be able to talk about those plagues in this. So we move from there to the plague of gnats, lice, ticks, gnats. Just the word itself makes you just want to start whacking them away because they're so annoying. They're so aggravating. This false god was Geb, god of the earth / dust. And the magicians could not duplicate this plague. Pharaoh hardened his heart and would not listen in this plague. We're going to turn to Exodus chapter 8, 16 through 19. And we're going to read about this plague. And so it's very interesting how the limits of these magicians, like they actually could duplicate those first two plagues with their magic arts and their stuff. But God just took it one step further, and he's like, no, I'm going to show you that you cannot duplicate this. And it started with the gnats. So we are in Exodus chapter 8, and we're at 16 through 19. Kaylee, would you like to read that?
Sure.
Since you love the gnats so much.
Then the Lord said to Moses, tell Aaron, stretch out your staff and strike the dust of the ground. And throughout the land of Egypt, the dust will become gnats.
Just stop there for a minute. The dust of the ground will become gnats. That's just unbelievable.
That's like swarms. Yeah.
What?
Just swarms of them. Just swarms. Like when you think, when a car goes down my dirt road, right, you get the dust of dirt from behind, their vehicle. And just to think of that turning into gnats and just being there, like disgusting.
Yeah, it's just, it would be a lot, not just a little bit, just like the frogs being everywhere. It was everywhere. The blood was everywhere. These are not just little isolated incidences where, there's a little bit of blood over here in this bucket of water from the Nile. It was everywhere. They could not get around it. I'm sorry, keep going, sis.
Oh, you're fine. They did this, and when Aaron stretched out his hand with the staff and struck the dust of the ground, gnats came on people and animals. All the dust throughout the land of Egypt became gnats. But when the magicians tried to produce gnats by their secret arts, they could not. Since the gnats were on people and animals everywhere, the magicians said to Pharaoh, this is the finger of God. But Pharaoh's heart was hard, and he would not listen, just as the Lord had said.
I love this part. Since the gnats were on people and animals everywhere, the magicians said to Pharaoh, this is the finger of God. The magicians had to say and confirm that they could not do this. They had to admit right then and there that this is the finger of God. That they cannot duplicate or they cannot redo this plague of gnats. But Pharaoh's heart was hard, and he would not listen, just as the Lord had said. And these gnats being everywhere is the gods that were targeted with this plague is, like I said, Jeb, the god of earth, and Thoth, god of magic and learning. Set is god of the desert and storms, and Hepri, god of insects and pests. So God just wiped out these 4 false gods with this plague of gnats. And they had to admit that, nope, I cannot duplicate this. This plague made the land again unclean. So we've got the rituals of the cleaning and the thoughts of the Egyptians and what they went through in order to keep. They were very clean, and these things were unclean. The Egyptians priests were known to do cleanliness rituals. They couldn't do any of that with these unclean gnats and these unclean frogs that were everywhere. And like we talked about last week, we don't know the time between these instances, these plagues. But let's say it's a week. Let's say it's even 2 weeks. You would be so exhausted cleaning up and trying to re-clean the environment. Let's just say it's the time between the frogs and the gnats. How much cleaning up would there need to be when all of those frogs just died? there would be so much cleanup and just the dirtiness of it all. And what do you do with these? So there was time between them, and then all of a sudden they get hit with the plague of the gnats.
And then they're wishing that the frogs were there.
Yeah, that they could hop around. And so these, as we go through these, and we see that these are they're relating to the different things that are going on in the Revelations. We can see the revelation, the seals, the trumpets, and the bowls, and the progression of these things that are happening. The blood, the frogs, the gnats, and this is constant. It had to be, because that time frame was a year of time. So when we look at it as a week difference, it's like you can say at least there's 10 plagues. You could say at least once a month, here came a plague. That in itself would be a huge undertaking. Here it goes again. God was giving Pharaoh time to be able to soften his heart, to meditate on what was going on. And then other instances, it happened right away. And we have the plague of the flies, the insects, the locusts, as it's called in Revelations, that these were things that were on in Revelations. Let's go to Revelations 9:3 for a minute and read that, because these are just some things to think about as we're going through this. 9:3, it says, we'll start at 1. The fifth angel sounded his trumpet and saw a star that had fallen from the sky to the earth. The star was given the key to the shaft of the abyss. When he opened the abyss, smoke rose from it like the smoke from a gigantic furnace. The sun and sky were darkened by the smoke from the abyss, and out of that smoke, locusts came down on the earth and were giving power like that of scorpions of the earth. They were told not to harm the grass of the earth or any plant or tree, but only those people who did not have the seal of God on their foreheads. Now, when we look at the Egyptians versus the Israelites, we've got to take a look at that right there. The Israelites were all about God. They were focused on God. Then you got the Egyptians that were all about their false gods. They were focused on those. And you can't help but correlate what's going on with the Israelites and the Egyptian versus the sealed and the unsealed. That will be happening in those last days. And I just want to talk about that as part of the these plagues. We move to the plagues of flies. And this is God, the sun god, often depicted as a beetle or a fly. Kempri, the magicians could not duplicate the plague of flies. And there's no mention of them even trying. They just now they're not even mentioned. They're irrelevant to what's going on. So we go to Exodus 8, verses 20 through 32.
I wonder if Pharaoh, if they're not mentioned again, I wonder if Pharaoh just dismissed them since they acknowledged God, like that it was God's finger. And then he's just like, go, like didn't even want them to try. Like I said, if he's not mentioned again that they had tried, but that would be interesting.
Yeah, that's a very good point. They recognized that God was in control, that he was the one doing it, and they were probably, Pharaoh didn't, now he's done with them, like you said. But I know they're not mentioned anymore after this. So that's a great point, Kaylee.
Yeah, well, it's like also a matter of maybe they were then, transformed and saved and gave up being the magician and stuff, since they were like, like, this is beyond us. This is the finger of God. Like, and maybe they became, believers, or,
Yeah.
it's not said. So here I am speculating again, but
Right.
it's interesting that now they're not mentioned.
But that it's a great point, and I love how they use the finger of God.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't just a false god like their gods were, the god of this, the god of that. No, they actually point out this is the finger of God. He has his finger on this. There's no doubt. And this is exactly what God wanted for the Egyptians. He wanted them, and the Israelites, he wanted them to understand that he was God, and he was doing this so that they would get ready for the Exodus. They would get ready and know that God is the one that is doing all of these things. And this was God's heart. This was his character. Now we move to the plague of flies. So not only do they got the little gnats, it's like get a gnat going around your head. That right there is like the Chinese water torture, deek, with the water, deek, deek. Well, these gnats are, and you're busy doing this everywhere. It says they were everywhere.
Yeah.
And now we move to the flies, which
right.
I hate flies.
Yeah, me too.
They can be everywhere.
All right, Exodus 8:20. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Get up early in the morning and confront Pharaoh as he goes to the river, and say to him, 'This is what the Lord says: Let my people go, so that they may worship me. If you do not let my people go, I will send swarms of flies on you and your officials, on your people, and into your houses. The houses of the Egyptians will be full of flies. Even the ground will be covered with them.'"
Stop there for a second. Now listen to what he gives them a warning first. He's like, okay, now I'm to the point where I'm giving you warnings. The Lord sends over to him, let my people go so that they may worship me. If you do not let my people worship me, or if you do not let my people go, I will send swarms of flies on you and your officials, on your people. Notice how he distinguishes here. It's important that we understand now the Lord is targeting Egypt, on your people and into your houses. The houses of the Egyptians will be full of flies. Even the ground will be covered with them. So he's clear on, he is sending these all to the Egyptians and their households. But on that day, I will deal differently with the land of Goshen. This is so important that we understand where my people live. Do you see what he's saying here?
Mm-hmm.
No swarms of flies will be there, so that you will know that I, the Lord, am in this land. I will make a distinction between my people, the sealed people, and your people, the unsealed people. This sign will occur tomorrow. We've talked about this so many times, that God is specific in his instructions, specific when he gives us the details of what's going to happen. It's not vague. It's not, to our interpretation specific. This sign will occur tomorrow, and it will be only on the Egyptians. So he's taking it a step further, and he is separating out his people versus the Egyptians. And the Lord did this. Dense swarms of flies poured into Pharaoh's palace and into the houses of his officials. Throughout Egypt, the land was ruined by flies. Then Pharaoh summoned Moses and Aaron and said, "Go sacrifice to your God here in the land." But Moses said, "That would not be right. The sacrifices we offer the Lord, our God, would be detestable to the Egyptians. And if we offer sacrifices that are detestable in their eyes, will they not stone us? We must take a 3-day journey into the wilderness to offer sacrifices to the Lord our God as he commands us." Pharaoh said, "I will let you go to offer sacrifices to the Lord your God in the wilderness, but you must not go very far. Now pray for me." Pharaoh, he knows there's a God.
Do people still not do that today, though? When they're going through hardship or something. If you're a prayer person, pray for me, send good thoughts, send good vibes, send your prayers. But if I'm praying for you, that's part of it. But like, are you even going to believe in the prayer? Or if the prayers are answered, is that going to affect you at all? Or is it just you want the benefits of the prayer, but not the commitment that goes along with it?
The instant relief.
But like, that's like why he's like saying, now pray for me, because like he knows he needs help. But yet, I mean, I know God hardened his heart. I'm just saying, it's like,
Yeah,
it just reminds me of people nowadays, like they come to you to ask for you to pray for them, but they don't pray on their own. They're the good vibes people, like, and you're like, well, yeah, I'll pray for you, but like, are you going to acknowledge when that prayer, when the prayer comes true, like when it's answered, are you going to acknowledge it? Or is it just gonna be like, oh, it worked, like I'm good now? Yeah.
Until I need the next prayer, or till I, go through another situation. But we already know God sends these things to test us, to soften our heart, to make us understand that he is indeed the Lord, and to get rid of all the false gods and idols that we have in our life that we worship. And now you can bring that modern day. What's the modern day idols that people worship? TV stations, TV series, our phones, our jobs, money. There's so many modern day idols that we worship. They're not son of God of this and God of that, but they're certainly God's small g gods in our life that we still need to clean up. And Pharaoh's recognizing that this is a problem here. Now I'm a little bit of a pickle. So maybe I need to pray for me, but he's not willing to pray for himself, like you said, Kaylee. So Moses answered, "As soon as I leave you, I will pray to the Lord. And tomorrow the flies will leave Pharaoh and his officials and his people." So Moses is interceding. He's understanding. He's wanting to work this out. He's doing his very best to be the intercessor between the two.
trying to remember the beginning of the story. God didn't tell
Go
him
ahead,
how.
Sister Mitriko. Did you want to say something?
Oh, I didn't even know I was off mute.
Oh,
okay. That's okay. Go ahead, Kaylee.
I was just saying in the beginning, did God mention how many plagues there were going to be?
No.
No, I didn't think so. So I'm wondering if, like Moses is hearing this and part of him is thinking like, this could be the last one. So I'm going to show mercy and I'm going to pray and the flies are going to leave, like thinking, like wondering when's the last, the last conversation or plague. Like
that's a great point.
Like if he didn't know how many or what, because he keeps getting told by God, now go back to Pharaoh and say this. So like by him being like, I will pray for you, and the Lord, and the flies will leave, thinking when they get back from sacrificing, things may be different, and then and then here comes another one. Like,
yeah, that's why I love Bible study, because it really gives, like, I didn't even think about that before, that it does not mention that there's going to be 10 plagues. We know that there's 10 plagues.
Right. Huh? I said, yeah, we know it because it's written. We know how many there are. But I was thinking of him going through it like, is this the one that's going to change his heart? Oh, that didn't work. Is this the one that's going to change his heart? Like,
that's such a great point. And so yes, so he's praying, pray for me. He's asking for prayer, but we already know his heart's not
right.
His heart's not really into the answer, what he needs to do in order to receive, relief. Right. Not just temporary relief. That's what I was saying. Some people pray for temporary relief. They're not really looking for permanent relief. Right. God as the answer and the surrender of it. And that's the difficult part. Until we learn that, we're just going to keep cycling through that same test and that same scenario. And this right here, Moses answered, as soon as I leave you, I will pray to the Lord. His heart's right. Like you said, I'll pray for you. And tomorrow the flies will leave Pharaoh and his officials and his people. Now, Moses is pretty confident right here when, he's made that decision. So now he's really got to go back to the Lord and say, Lord, I just told Pharaoh that tomorrow these flies are going to be gone. So we've got to make this happen tomorrow.
Yeah, well, he gave him that thing above Aaron that he was going to be acting as God, and then Aaron being, so in that sense, it's like if he says that, then the Lord's like, yep, that's what we're doing then, type deal. Like, not that he's teaching God anything or like changing anything. It's just like, yeah.
He's there. Anyway. He's the representative. He's the messenger.
Right.
He's got the relationship with God. He is right there, acting on God's behalf, and he's confident in it. I love that Moses is confident with his relationship with God. It's like, this is going to be okay. Tomorrow you'll have relief of the flies. And Moses went back and he had conversation with God. He's speaking with God. He's praying. He's doing all the things Moses said he was going to do. We can confidently say Moses went and did it. So
when it says when it says, that Moses left in Pharaoh and prayed to the Lord, doesn't explain his whole prayer. And it's not, the 2026 30-second prayer for the day.
Right.
There is probably a much longer process, especially you've been face to face with God. Like, how, anyway.
They're friends.
Okay.
They're friends. Yeah. Only let Pharaoh be sure that he does not act deceitfully again. by not letting the people go to offer sacrifices to the Lord. So Moses' discernment is very high. He's aware, he's alert, he's very focused in on Pharaoh and what Pharaoh's reaction. He's starting to really understand what's happening. It's not just the plagues. It's not just Pharaoh. He's understanding the full concept now. The bigger picture is starting to be exposed to Moses. Then Moses left Pharaoh and prayed to the Lord, and the Lord did what Moses asked. See, Moses asked. So he's coming to the Lord and he's interceding, and Moses is asking. He didn't come and tell the Lord, okay, tomorrow I've made this, you must do this. No, he asked. Right. The flies left Pharaoh, and that goes to show how important what we ask for in prayer. We've got to understand that if we don't ask, our prayers are not going to be answered if we're just praying and not asking. We need to be specifically asking for what it is that we desire or we want. And he says, ask and you will receive. Then Moses left Pharaoh and prayed to the Lord. Sorry about that. And the Lord did what Moses asked. The flies left, and Pharaoh and his officials and his people, not a fly remained. But this time also Pharaoh hardened his heart and would not let the people go. Not a fly remained. So he completely took the flies away. And we can read in other scriptures where big winds would come and clean up the whole area. So we can only assume with that many flies that they went away, and a wind came and cleaned up that whole land, like with the quail. That's how he cleaned up the land with the wind. So
what's interesting is how he ended for the frogs, right? Was just they all dropped dead. Yeah. Like, okay, then I'll take care of it. They're dead. And so, but they were all left, right? You had all the frogs to deal with. And then this one, not a single fly, they're just gone. And yet
he's seeing a little bit of flexibility there, isn't he? He's like, this is our God. This is our grace and mercy God. He's seeing the flexibility in Pharaoh. He's seeing Pharaoh maybe change just a little bit, maybe bend just a little bit. And then he doesn't leave all of those flies to clean up like he did with the frogs. Just a little bit, he sees a bending in Pharaoh's heart. Just a little bit. So now we move to the plagues on livestock.
Well, how I see hang on.
Okay, go ahead.
How I see
don't let me stop you. No, don't let me move on until you're ready.
It's just one of my speculating things. So you have the frogs, like I said, where they're just dead.
Yeah.
The people had to deal with, right?
Yeah.
So when I'm looking at this again, right? It's the Lord did what Moses asked. So Moses asked for not even a fly to be left.
Yeah.
And again, it goes back to my other comment about him not knowing how many plagues there was going to have to be.
Yeah.
Or maybe he's like, who knows? But maybe he's like, Lord, maybe when we left the frogs, it caused him to be angry because of the smell, because of the, this, that, the uncleanliness. Maybe if this time we don't leave anything, like why was it now that the flies, there was none? Well, it says because Moses, he did what Moses asked of him, right? So that was Moses being like, we need to not leave anything. Like maybe this will be the time that he'll, his heart will change. So like, let's not even leave one fly. And then it says that, God did what Moses asked. So I see Moses in that going like, well, maybe this was too much. We left him. It was too, maybe this is how we fix, like, maybe this is how we can, you know.
I love that you brought that out, because it's in Moses' story. It's about his relationship with God. And that's just one aspect of his relationship with God. He doesn't leave it as a superficial prayer, but he has a true relationship. Friends, they're talking, they're having conversation, they're going back and forth. That's what you do with a friend. It's not a friend when you're the only one speaking and the other person is just not giving feedback, or you're always giving and you're never receiving. That's not a friendship. And God calls Moses a friend. He speaks to him face to face as a friend. There's conversation, there's communication, there's a back and forth, there's a discussion, there's a strategy. As friends, isn't it good to say, like, I have a problem, and then your friend says, well, let me hear your problem, and then you express your problem and they give feedback. Nothing's worse than you going and you're spilling your guts out and that person go, oh man, that's too bad. I'm sorry about, and give you nothing. A friendship is back and forth and strategizing and giving some kind of input. Yeah, I've been through that before. This is what happened to me. I'm not saying this is the same in your situation, but this is what happened to me. This is how I dealt with it. This is how the Lord dealt with it in my life. There's a conversation, there's a back and forth. And I love that Moses has this with God. He has a back and forth. He has a friendship. He has a relationship. And they're strategizing. Like you said, Kaylee, they're strategizing. Hey, maybe if we don't leave these flies everywhere like we did the frogs, maybe that will change their heart a little bit. I love how you brought that out. That's a great point. Good morning, Brother Stedman. We're glad that you're here.
Good morning. Sorry for my tardiness.
It's okay.
Hey, sis.
Good morning.
We were just on the plague of flies. We went through the plagues of the gnats, and we just ended with at the end where not a fly remained this time, where the frogs were completely everywhere. And we are moving on to the plague of the livestock. Everybody ready?
Yep.
Okay. So the plague on livestock. Now, and I want to go back, Brother Stedman, to this point in the flies that is going on. It's back in, and for everybody else, back in the beginning in 20. I want to read that again because it's very important that we understand what's happening now with the blood and the frogs. And now to the flies. He makes it very distinguished what he's doing. It says, then the Lord says to Moses, get up early in the morning and confront Pharaoh as he goes to the river and say to him, this is what the Lord says. Let my people go so that they may worship me. If you do not let my people go, I will send swarms of flies on you, talking to Pharaoh, and on your officials and on your people and into your houses. Emphasize on your. And what I was saying, Brother Stedman, is here you have the Israelites and the Egyptians, and you have the sealed versus the unsealed. So God is sending these plagues now directly and specifically on the Egyptians. And he's making it well known that don't think that this is affecting my people. This plague is deliberately to your people. And he goes on to say, but on that day, he says, the houses of the Egyptians will be full of flies, even the ground will be covered with them. But on that day, I will deal differently with the land of Goshen, where my people live. No swarms of flies will be there, so that you will know that I, the Lord, am in this land. This is what we've got to keep in our thought process. I will make a distinction, he says, between my people and your people. Like, I am not even fooling around anymore. Make this perfectly clear that my people will not be affected by these plagues. My people are sealed. Your people are not, and they are going to be affected. I'm just using Revelation as a point. And this is what Revelation points out, the difference between the two people, the two sets of people. So I wanted to bring that out before we move on to the livestock. He's made it very, very clear that I am not having any of this affect my people, only you and your people. And now we're moving on to the livestock. And again, the magicians, the secret arts aren't even called. The other point at the end is the magicians in 8, Brother Stedman and others, if you didn't catch it, 8 at the end of the chapter. Since the gnats were on people and animals everywhere, the magicians said to Pharaoh, "This is the finger of God." But Pharaoh's heart was hard and he would not listen, just as the Lord had said. So the magicians, the secret art people, they're like, yeah, we can't do this. The finger of God is on this. And Kaylee pointed out that since they pointed this out, that Pharaoh didn't need them anymore. They couldn't do anything. So when we get to the livestock, we'll see they're not even mentioned. They didn't even try. They're not even in the picture anymore. Because like Kaylee said, Pharaoh realized that they turned and recognized the one true God, that only the finger of God could this be, that all of this is happening. So those
they weren't there for the flies, and then they're not here for the livestock.
Yep.
And then I don't think they're mentioned anymore. So it was after they acknowledged God. They're gone.
They moved over to the Israelite side. They're like, I'm going over here where the plagues are not, and that is God's heart, isn't it? That It doesn't matter. There's always people that can convert and go to transform and be God's people. That's what he wants.
You're never too far.
No, and these were magical arts, and they were, doing, they were performing miracles until they realized, they were false, but until they realized, the finger of God is on this. I've got to, this is not some secret art. This is God. And I think he shows up like that. When you're dabbling in those things that you should not be dabbling in, I think he makes it clear, and then you make that decision on your own. But we're moving on to the plague of livestock. Brother Stedman, would you like to read the plague of livestock?
Yes, ma'am. Let's
talk about, before you start, the false gods that involved in this livestock. The false god of Hathor. Look how many false gods they have. We've got a false god of this, and we got a false god of that, and we've got this god, that god. Here's a god, there's a god, everywhere a god. And this is the god Hathor, small letter, the false god, a cow goddess. and Apis, a bull god. There's a false god in every little aspect, but they never realize that there is a one true God. And so he's trying to change their hearts. So let's start reading the plague on livestock.
All right, chapter 9. Then the Lord said to Moses, go to Pharaoh and say to him, this is what the Lord, the God of the Hebrews, says. Let my people go so they may worship me. If you refuse to let them go and continue to hold them back, the hand of the Lord will bring a terrible plague on your livestock in the fields, on your horses and donkeys and camels, and on your cattle and sheep and goats. But the Lord will make a distinction between the livestock of Israel and that of Egypt, so that no animal belonging to the Israelites will die.
Let's stop right there for a minute. That's huge. That's huge. He's not affecting Israelites' ability to do their sacrificing. He's not affecting Israelites' ability to eat. He's not affecting the Israelites in any fashion with their livestock, donkeys, cattle, sheep, goats, horses. He's not affecting any of that, and he's making it very clear. But the Lord will make a distinction between the livestock of Israel and that of Egypt, so that no animal belonging to the Israelites will die. No animal. Keep going, Brother Stemmen.
The Lord set a time and said, tomorrow the Lord will do this in the land. And the next day the Lord did it. All the livestock of the Egyptians died, but not one animal belonging to the Israelites died. Pharaoh sent men to investigate and found out that not even one of the animals of the Israelites had died. Yet his heart was unyielding and he would not let the people go.
You know what I love about this verse in verse 5? We talk about it in Revelations too. The Lord set
a time.
A time. The Lord sets the time. And that's what Revelations is trying to tell us. There is set times. Daniel's telling us in Daniel chapter 12, there's set times that the Lord has set for us. We read it here in the plagues. The Lord set a time and said, tomorrow the Lord will do this in the land. And the next day, what happened?
He did it.
He did it. So he sets the time. He tells us the time. That's why when we say no one knows the day or hour. Yeah, we do when we know the signs. We know what's coming. He's telling us. And we know that Jesus said those things when he was here on earth. And we know that when he went to heaven, he got more information. Now, what all that information is, of course, we don't know that. Of course, we don't. But we know a lot now. Now that Daniel is come true, we can see it. We can see that these things will take place at these given times. And he tells us over and over, the Lord has set a time. And then he does it. So we can't just ignore that Revelations is not a set time or this is not going to happen. But
And
not one, go ahead. Sorry, brother.
I'm sorry. No, I cut you off. All apologies.
No, I was just going to read, but not one animal belonging to the Israelites died. And we read that in Revelations as well. The Israelites were saved. They were sealed. If you have the seal, if you take the mark, you're going to die. If you're going to go to the Egyptian side, if you're going to go to the other side, you know, he already warns us what's going to happen. Go ahead, Brother Stedman.
No, I was just going to say, the Lord did it from the very beginning, going back to Genesis chapter 1, even in and 14. It says, "And God said, Let there be light in the expanse of the sky to separate day from night, and let them serve as signs to mark seasons and days and years." So even from the very beginning, he's setting time from the very beginning of the Bible all the way throughout. That's all I was going to say.
Yeah, yeah, and praise God. And this, like you said, from the beginning, and that's why all the way through, he's trying to get us to understand that these times have been set. These things have been set, and he is going to do what he says he's going to do, all the way from Genesis to Revelations. So we cannot steer away from Revelations as it's far-fetched. We cannot understand it. We understand it more and more as we chip away and relate to the Old Testament, to the New Testament, to Revelations. And it tells us here that there is set times, and the Lord has set them, and he's going to do it. Just like this plague, just like this livestock plague. And those that his people are not going to be affected. You'll be going through it if you're alive. If that at that time, I'm not saying you're not, but if you're truly his people, what's he tell us? Don't be afraid. Don't be worried. Keep focused on me, and you won't have to be like the others. Just stay steadfast. And this is what it's telling us in the plague of the livestock. It's so important that we understand as we're learning these plagues and really diving into them. And we could dive even deeper into these plagues, but it's important that we understand what God was doing. He's trying to get us to understand that, yes, his finger is on these plagues. His finger is on to distinguish his people from the other people. My people versus your people. And we have to decide, are we his people or are we these people? That's what he's trying to get us to decide in these plagues, in Pharaoh's heart. And Pharaoh began to say, pray for me. But as we know, he didn't mean pray for him. He just wanted it to stop. He didn't mean I'm surrendering everything to him. I get it now. Let me soften my heart. Let me hear the word of the Lord. Let the Spirit of God come on me. He's not saying that. He's saying just, I need this stuff to stop. It's affecting us seriously now. Stop.
Sound like peace and safety in Revelation.
It does. Good point. I just want that peace. If your prayers work, can you pray for me? Because I can't take this anymore. But he's unwilling to, like Kaylee pointed out, he's unwilling to pray himself. He's unwilling to do what it takes to change us. Sometimes we got to let things go. You know, we got to get rid of our pride. We got to get rid of our arrogance. We got to get rid of our unforgiveness. Pharaoh had a big pride problem. He was Pharaoh. He was king. He had a lot to get rid of. And these plagues came and came.
It's the acknowledgement. Like hearing what you said, what Kaylee said, he didn't want to acknowledge, like even the magicians and stuff acknowledged who was in control, and he didn't want to do that.
And it being right there affecting him. He didn't want to do that. The magicians, they were able to do it. They were not mentioned anymore. They couldn't, they didn't even want to try to attach themselves or try to get these things. They did the blood, they did the frogs, but that was it. After that, they couldn't do any more. And we moved to the plagues of boils. This one, another false god, Sekhmet. These names are incredible. Goddess of healing and epidemics. So they have a God for everything. Imhotep, God of medicine. Isis, God of healing. They're praying to, or they're worshiping all of these false gods that are categorized. Remember when we talked about Moses, and when Moses asked God, who are you? Which God are you? Or what is, who are you? He's trying to categorize God. And God gave him the perfect answer, because all of these false gods are categorized into these different categories. And God says, you can't categorize me. My name is I am who I am. And you're not even going to attempt to categorize me into what you've done with all these false gods, because I am so above that.
Well, and what's great too is like, you know, when God said that, he didn't re-question it. He accepted it. And that would be because he was brought up both ways. His Hebrew family, he was introduced to God. And then, but yet the Egyptians, he was there longer. So of course he knew all of these other gods. So then it was just kind of like taking his teachings and him going like, oh, okay. Like, now I know. Like, opposed to like, yeah, but how do I know for sure? I've never heard of you. You know, like clearly he had heard of him and knew what he was saying when he says I am. You know, that was a very pronounced, because even Jesus uses it, you know, and it's a very like, that's blasphemy. Like, so he, you know, clearly knew and understood in that moment, you know.
Yeah, and it's so important that we understand that. And this is what the plagues are telling us. All these false gods, and how prominent that meant when God came back with I am who I am. And we went through the whole meaning of what that was and how that entailed. It should give us an even greater thought of our Lord and how great our Lord is, because he knew all of this was coming to fruition. He knew that this was all going to happen, and the reason why. So he's like, don't even attempt to put me in a category with all that. I'm going to wipe out these false gods and these false worship thoughts in your mindset. I have to do that in order to get my people out for the Exodus. This is the whole thing, is I got to get my people ready for the Exodus. And this whole process, as we go through the Exodus, is going to show God showing up to show his people, to change their mindset. They have a slave mindset. They have an unhealed slave mindset. And he is trying to get his people healed and ready to leave that mindset. All right, let's talk about what that mindset means. Let's all take ourselves with the one slavery that we know that happened in America. Let's talk about it. What would their mindset be like? They had to survive. They had to, everything was in preparation, because we don't know what tomorrow is, what it's going to be like. We've got to hoard. We've got to protect. We're in fight or flight mode at all times. Nothing is fair. I don't trust anybody. I can't love the way I want to love. I can't have relationships the way I want to have relationship. Everything's taken from me. How do you build that up? How do you change that mindset when it's been generation after generation?
Correct.
This was, and I want to take that and that whole mindset to understand what the Israelites were going through. They were slave for all those years. Their generation after generation after generation, just like the slaves of America, were taught to be survivors. And we know when we're in survival mode, there's a whole lot of junk that we're hoarding into our spirit because we have to survive. It's all about surviving mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. And the slaves of America had to go through that same type of thing. Some of the descendants are not okay to today. They're still in that mindset. They're still healing. They're still hurting. So you can't expect for the Israelites to walk out of Egypt, whether they had gold on their hands or not, or rings in their ears and nose, and have a completely different mindset. God had to gently, and he's such a merciful, good God. He had to gently get the people moving in the right direction. He knew exactly how to do it. He knew he couldn't do it quick. Healing sometimes is not quick when it's so embedded in our spirit. And he had to do this for the Israelites. And it's such a beautiful story so that we understand what God was doing in their lives to get them ready to move. This was a huge undertaking. This was just the beginning of the Exodus. This is not the Exodus.
Right. Well, and that's why you have, it didn't happen at the first, not even the first plague, but as the staff going to a snake, because I think it took that, the water and the frogs, right, to even get the magicians to not be able to perform, which you know that there was people then that would question, well, if they could do it, like, that's nothing amazing, you know, like it's just another, you know, God who's just doing it. Like, what's the big deal, right? So that even is part of that slow process, is because who knows how many magicians were there, right? Because doesn't it say he called like all from the land or whatever? So who knows how many were actually there, you know, and what kind of hold they had on people. You know, if they were performing miracles, healing people, you know, I don't know all what they were doing at that exact time.
Yeah.
But who knows how many of a hold that they had on people, so that it was holding on to their hearts, like, you know, and yeah. And then you just have like, and then what I had pointed out earlier too is how, you know, God didn't tell Moses how many plagues there was going to be. Yeah. So then it has, instead of him counting down, like, okay, we're on number 5. We only got 5 more to go. Like, I can work through it. It was also keeping, I assume, like, his hope in, like, okay, this
building
time.
his faith.
And what's great was he didn't get discouraged. Like, I mean, he probably did. I mean, we're going to read and see if he says anything, because I don't know offhand. But as far as the discouragement of, like, quitting, right? Or just like, I'm just going to bed, I can't do this, you know, like, it didn't happen. So for the way that God made it happen also helped build Moses into either, you know, whatever, trusting more, having more faith, like being confident in himself, you know, like, all the things, right? It's like we just read for the flies, how he, you know,
just jump in there, Brother Stone.
That he told Pharaoh he's going to pray for him. He prays for him. God answered and does what Moses asked. And like I was saying, I think that at that one, Moses was thinking, okay, this might be the moment where, because we've left all the frogs and the gnats and the water, and it's destroyed things and the smell, maybe this time, if we just get rid of every single fly, maybe this will be the turning point. Like, you wonder if he needed that little bit of hope to keep kind of going, to have those conversations with God, to like determine, like, all right, like, we're working on this. Like you were saying, you know, the strategizing, like, all right, what can we do, you know,
for the people?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. As I'm was going through it as well, is building up definitely building up his friendship with the Lord, um,
Hmm.
and his confidence in God. Not only that, as we know that the Lord made a distinction between the Israelites and Egypt. So
Mm-hmm.
it's also showing them the difference in starting to build, like Mama was saying, that trust factor,
Mm-hmm.
showing them that, hey, I got y'all before even y'all going out in the wilderness. So it's in just bringing us into it in modern times. He shows us each and every day, but
Yeah.
it has to, we have to get to the point of building up our faith even more to really trust and rely on it. Is it tough, especially being in the system for so long like they
Yeah.
were?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough, but he's showing us, and it's us getting to the point, even with rereading this, that he's been there. He says, I'll be there with you, I will go ahead of you, do not be afraid. He's given us these things over and over and over again to build up our faith and build up our trust and our mindset in him. And that's what comes to mind, especially with him bringing that distinction between the Egyptians and the Israelites. Goshen was right next to Egypt. So
Yep.
imagine seeing, like, all from afar, all this stuff happening, and then you're looking like nothing happened until ours. Like,
My
praise
cows are
God.
right here.
Yeah, right, right.
Yeah, and Brother Stedman, it's so beautiful because God's working on everybody at the same time. He's working on you, he's working on me, he's working on Kaylee, he's working on everybody on Zoom, he's working on everybody at home listening. Wherever you are, he's working on you. There were so many of the Israelites. We see in the movie like a little bit of Israelites. No,
Right.
we read there's thousands upon thousands of Israelites. He had to change the group mindset as
Yeah.
well as the individual mindset. He had to change all of that. So he's working on us as a group, as children of God, and he's working on us individually, what we specifically need. And Moses needed to be developed as that leader. He had a job to do once they left. This is the stirring of the pot to get everybody thinking in the right direction. There was a lot of cleanup to do. And this is how mighty our God is. He's able to take that big crowd and make things happen. And we can only be thankful and grateful
Praise
and
God.
know his character and know
Yeah.
why he does what he does. That's the whole point of Bible studying. Knowing why he did what he did, seeing it, taking our time to read it. We're not rushing through just to read. We're reading so that we get a better understanding. He separates out his people. And his desire is to have the people that are, when he points to your people, like the magicians, come over to me. Come to me and understand that it is the finger of God that's on everything. Separate yourself out. And then we know, as in Revelation, there will be sealed and unsealed.
Those who fear him and those who don't.
Yep. And those Egyptians, they had to change their mindset. They had a huge undertaking. That's why they grumbled. And we're going to get into all of that as we get into the Exodus. I just want to start the Exodus with understanding. After we do the plagues, we're going to get into the Exodus. I want you to understand that they had a lot to overcome. It wasn't just getting out of Egypt. It wasn't just that. It was the healing process, the mindset, the heart set, the leaving the emotion of fight or flight. They had a lot to go through. That whole group of people had been oppressed, had been hurt, had unhealed scars. They had a lot. And those are the things that we're going to get through with the Exodus. And it's going to be a great study. So I will be on starting the plague of bowls next week. Can't wait. And that's going to also tie to Revelations as well. So, would you like to add anything else, Kaylee, before we get
No,
off?
I just thought it was funny. Like, I can't wait to get to the plague of boils. Like it just sounded funny. That's all. Just made me laugh.
Well, I'm glad, because I find the stories of the Bible are wonderful stories that are not just stories, but real life that happened to the people. And, there is humor in the Bible. There is funny things. Like when God says to Peter, "Are you so dull?" Like, I can only laugh. But then when you go to let's go to Ezekiel before we get off. You go to laugh about Jesus calling Peter, you're funny. Are you so dull that you don't get what I'm trying to tell you? But yet here is God too. We see him in the plague. We see why he's doing what he's doing. But listen to what he also says in Ezekiel 3:16, starting in 16. At the end of 7 days, he's talking to Ezekiel. At the end of 7 days, the word of the Lord came to me, "Son of man, I have made you a watchman for the people of Israel," his people. "So hear the word I speak and give them warning from me. When I say to a wicked person, 'You will surely die,' and you do not warn them or speak out to dissuade them from their evil ways in order to save their life, that wicked person will die for their sin. But if you do not warn the wicked person and they do not turn from their wickedness or from their evil ways, they will die for their sin, but you will have saved yourself. But if you do not warn the wicked person that they do not turn from their wicked ways or from their evil ways, they will die for their sin, but you will have saved yourself. Again, when a righteous person turns from their righteousness and does evil, and I put a stumbling block before them, they will die. Since you did not warn them, they will die for their sin. The righteous things that person did not be remembered, and I will hold you accountable for their blood. But if you do warn the righteous person not to sin, and they do not sin, they will surely live because they took warning, and you will have saved yourself." The hand of the Lord was on me there, and he said to me, "Get up and go. Go. Do the work of the Lord." He's telling you, if you don't, you're going to be held accountable. And Moses, he was supposed to do the work of the Lord. He didn't have a choice. He had to learn how to do it. He had to surrender to it. He had to be clean in his mind and in his heart and in his spirit. He had to learn. He had to learn to be a leader. He had to take control. He was accountable. He was accountable for Pharaoh. He was accountable for the Egyptians. He was accountable for the Israelites. He was accountable, as we are accountable for the people around us. We can't take that lightly. But it says, but if you tried, if you attempted, and they would not turn from their wicked ways, you're not accountable anymore. See how our Lord operates? I want you to do the right thing. I want you to keep it in your mindset that you have a job, you're accountable. But I'm giving you also an understanding of once they have decided, once Pharaoh decided, once those Egyptians didn't come over to leave with the Israelites, some of them did. We'll read that. Some of them did. Just like the magicians and the art and the secret arts. Some of them did. That's what God desires, to get those sheep out of the wickedness going on. So I hope you've enjoyed today's Bible study. I know I did. I can't wait for the plague of boils and the rest of the plagues, and to get into the Exodus. And I hope you have a better understanding of the mindset and the understanding of how the people were, what the people were enduring before they even got to the point. They had a lot of healing to do.
And the same thing goes for us too.
Yeah, for sure. That's what we're doing. We're healing, and he's healing us a lot. We got a lot to heal from. It's not one scar. I know I've got a lot of scars on the outside of my body, but it definitely is the scars that were on the inside that I needed the most healing.
The unseen ones, yes, ma'am.
Mm-hmm. So I thank you for being here on Coffee Time Bible Study, and we'll see you next week at 9:00 a.m. Eastern Time. Bye-bye.